Welcome to How to Build a Resume with your host, Zach Webster. In this session, we're going to be going over how to build the work experience section on your resume. So let's go ahead and jump right in. All right, so we're going to go over some of the things that are required that you definitely want to include on the work experience section. So name of the company, city and state, or city and country, if that's relevant. You want to make sure to include your title. What was your position? Start and end dates, or if it's ongoing, you can say, started October 2017 to present, just as an example, and make sure to include a description of what you did in that role. I've actually seen a lot of resumes where people didn't include what they actually did. All right, so I've got a few recommendations as well. So make sure to use keywords that are relevant to the role that you're interested in or the role that you're being recruited for. Stories tell, numbers sell. Make sure to use numbers. Anytime that you can talk about you saved the company money, how much money? You grew the company's client base by how much? What percentage, right? Also be sure to give size, scope, and scale of your position. Were you working in the city of Atlanta or on the East Coast of the United States or in a national position or maybe a global position? And if it's global, is it really global with 200 countries or maybe global with 27 countries? So make sure to give size, scope, and scale of your position. Additionally, if you're working with internal or external clients, it can be good to call that out. And if you're able to, because you're not under an NDA or anything like that, then make sure to include your client names as well. If you've worked with, especially clients people know, let's say Walmart, Home Depot, Microsoft, Google, those are going to be impressive for your reader to understand who your clients were. Last but not least, for recommended is make sure to use action verbs. So built, led, managed, designed. You want to really try and highlight what did you do in those roles. All right, there's a few things that are optional. If it's a company that a lot of folks don't know, it can be really, really beneficial to include a short description of the company. So if you've worked for an ABC company and not a lot of people know who they are, who are they? What do they do? And then that can really help your reader understand what you did for that organization. If you're in a traveling position, let's say sales, account management, or just any sort of role where you're traveling, then it can be good to include how much did you travel? 25%, 75%, or maybe it was a bit of a range, right? You can do 25 to 50. You can include company logos if you want. I don't prefer it. It's not my recommendation, but it's fine if you would like to. And additionally, if you've worked in contract positions or short-term engagements, maybe consulting positions, let's say that they were 3 weeks or 3 months, it would be good to call out that that was a contracted role. If you've never worked contract and you've only ever worked full time, I don't think you need to call it out. But if you have worked contract, it could be good to do so. All right, there's a few things that you don't need. You don't need exact dates. So I don't need to know that you started a role on June 7th, 2009, and you finished July 19th of 2011. Exact dates aren't necessary. Month and year works just fine. Additionally, you don't need 20 bullet points. Your reader isn't likely to read that much. So rather, I would encourage you to focus on maybe 3 to 5 of the bullet points that are most relevant for the role that you're applying to. Over communicating, you really don't want to over communicate in this. Less is more in this case. You also don't want to be vague. If you're saying that you did data analytics, well, what were you using? R and Python. What sort of data were you analyzing? Additionally, if you grew your customer base, by how much? 50%, or from 20 customers to 500 customers. Additionally, if you save the company money, how much money did you save? Did you save $50,000 or $5 million? So make sure you're not vague when you're detailing out in your work experience section. Okay, here's a couple quick examples of this is just sort of an example company. So here we have name of the company, location, the position, recruitment manager, and the timeline. Also, because this is a fictional company, I came up with a description of the company, and I said that they're a $1 billion national recruitment agency with 100 plus offices. We also see we also see action verbs like ran, specialized, grew, utilized. We see some numbers, so grew existing accounts from 40 to 58, and the individual traveled 50%. We also see size and scope. So here we see that the individual is working in San Francisco, but they're working across Northern California and Oregon. And we also see within the scope, we see that they were specializing in recruiting finance and accounting professionals. So that's just one example. Let's move on to one more. All right, here's another example that has a splash of color. I do like a little bit of color in a resume. You don't want to have too many colors, but just a splash works great. Here we've got a couple of nice icons. So here's a little calendar icon. We've got a little location icon. We see some good action verbs. So implement, steer, foster. We see some numbers like 10,000, 86 countries, $4.4 million budget. So this is a really great overview of an experience as well. And I did borrow this from a close friend of mine who I thought had a great resume. So those are just a few examples and an overview of what to include, what I do recommend, optional, and what not to include in your work experience section. Please let me know if you have any questions. Happy to help. Thanks.